The air in Washington, D.C. was thick with political intrigue as South African President Cyril Ramaphosa met then U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. This wasn't just another diplomatic handshake, it was a meeting freighted with expectation and tension. The world watched, curious to see how these two leaders would navigate the choppy waters of international relations. It was clear this encounter would be anything but straightforward, promising a spectacle as much as a summit. Reports painted a picture of a charged atmosphere, with Ramaphosa's spokesperson noting deliberate provocation. Imagine being in that room, the weight of a nation on your shoulders, facing an unpredictable counterpart. The very walls of the Oval Office seemed to absorb the undercurrents of disagreement that day. Donald Trump, never one to shy away from contentious statements, had been vocal about his concerns, seemingly gleaned from questionable sources regarding the safety of white farmers in South Africa and what he termed the large-scale killing of farmers. He had even tweeted about instructing his Secretary of State to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and the alleged killings. This narrative of a targeted Afrikaner genocide became a prominent talking point in certain conservative circles, despite a lack of credible evidence to support such a grave and inflammatory accusation. For Trump to raise this directly with Ramaphosa was a significant and provocative diplomatic move. President Ramaphosa, faced with these serious allegations on an international stage, mounted a robust and direct rebuttal. He firmly pushed back against Trump's claims, unequivocally stating that there was no reality to the notion of an Afrikaner genocide or widespread government-sanctioned land grabs targeting white farmers. Ramaphosa sought to correct the narrative, explaining the complexities of South Africa's land reform process, which is aimed at addressing historical injustices of apartheid-era land dispossession through constitutional and legal means. His response was a crucial defense of his country's policies and its commitment to a non-racial democracy, a direct counter to the misinformation being peddled. The international reaction to Trump's claims, and subsequently Ramaphosa's firm stance, was varied but telling. Many international observers and media outlets were critical of Trump's assertions, viewing them as an oversimplification and misrepresentation of a complex issue, potentially fueled by racially charged misinformation. Interestingly, some reports even suggested that certain Afrikaner farming organizations in South Africa themselves found the genocide claims to be laughably exaggerated and unhelpful. This highlighted the disconnect between the alarmist rhetoric promoted by Trump and the nuanced realities experienced by those actually living and farming in South Africa, including many within the Afrikaner community. The entire episode underscored the sensitive and often misunderstood nature of land reform in South Africa. While the country grapples with the legacy of apartheid and the urgent need for more equitable land distribution, the process is intended to be orderly and constitutional. Trump's intervention, based on distorted information, threatened to derail constructive dialogue and further polarize an already delicate debate. Ramaphosa's pushback was therefore not just about defending South Africa's image, but also about protecting the integrity of its democratic processes and its ongoing journey towards addressing deep-seated historical inequalities without resorting to the chaos Trump's narrative implied. Beyond the immediate fireworks of the genocide debate, the meeting also cast a spotlight on other intricate political dynamics. John Steenhuisen, leader of South Africa's Democratic Alliance, appealed to Donald Trump for support against an ANC coalition. This unorthodox move highlighted the shifting political landscape in South Africa. Trump, meanwhile, downplayed the G20, consistent with his America First policy. This stance contrasted sharply with South Africa's commitment to multilateralism. The ideological chasm between Trump and Ramaphosa was evident. In the immediate aftermath of the White House showdown, interpretations of the meeting varied wildly, often colored by political allegiances. Some media narratives, particularly those sympathetic to Trump, portrayed him as having schooled President Ramaphosa, taking a tough stance on perceived injustices. Conversely, many in South Africa and among international observers lauded Ramaphosa for standing his ground, calmly and firmly rebutting the unfounded allegations and defending his nation's sovereignty and policies. The truth, as is often the case in such high-level diplomatic encounters, likely lay somewhere in the complex interplay of pressure, defense, and the subtle art of international communication. Looking beyond the headlines, the question arose as to the long-term impact of this notably tense meeting on the broader relationship between the United States and South Africa. While the exchange was undoubtedly frosty and highlighted significant points of friction, diplomatic relationships between nations are typically built on a wider array of shared interests and historical ties that often transcend the personalities or political leanings of their leaders at any given moment. Strategic partnerships, economic links, and shared democratic values, however strained, often provide a foundation for continued, if sometimes challenging, engagement between Washington and Pretoria. The encounter served as a stark reminder of the challenges contemporary world leaders face when engaging with counterparts who may operate outside conventional diplomatic norms or who readily deploy misinformation. President Ramaphosa's approach, direct rebuttal combined with an attempt to educate and correct the record, offered one model for navigating such interactions. It highlighted the difficult balance between robustly defending national interests and avoiding an escalation that could irrevocably damage crucial bilateral ties. This diplomatic dance requires immense skill, patience, and a clear understanding of one's own principles and objectives on the global stage. Ultimately, the Ramaphosa-Trump meeting, with all its drama and disagreement, became another chapter in South Africa's ongoing journey of asserting its voice and its narrative in a complex and often turbulent world. Despite the provocations and the misrepresentations, South Africa, under Ramaphosa's leadership at that moment, demonstrated a commitment to engaging even with challenging partners while steadfastly defending its sovereignty and its vision for its own future. The path forward for U.S.-South Africa relations would continue to be shaped by myriad factors, but this particular White House encounter certainly provided a memorable, if somewhat jarring, landmark along the way.